This product definitely raised a few eyebrows when it was released, and this is the USW WAN Switch. Now what this basically does is if you have two gateways which are set up in shadow mode, you can connect it to a single ISP. Now a lot of people have said that you can use a separate switch for this, but Ubiquiti being Ubiquiti make a nice, simple, easy solution for you to plug and play and get everything sorted. And in this video, we're going to take a look. So first let's take a look at inside the box. And this is the first look at it. So this is the RJ45 version. There is a second one that you can buy, which is the SFP Plus version, but this one all has RJ45, and there isn't a hybrid model where some is SFP and some is RJ45. It's either one or the other. It's the standard 1U size that you've come to expect to see most of the devices. You'll see straight away that there's the little LCM screen that's missing from here that normally also comes with it. And on the back we have two AC ports. So we have a management port and then we have two AC ports. So if you have two circuits coming in that you want it to be completely separate to give you the full redundancy that you need, then this is what you have. In the hardware kit, we have two cables, and then we have a set of rack ears, which we're not going to need because we're going to be setting this up in the tallest rack. And also we have some feet if you're going to have it mounted on a desk, and some rack nuts too. Now, unfortunately, being in the UK, I can't use these nicely braided cables with a nice locking cable. I have to use some standard cables that I have. But if you do order one and you are based in the UK, you will get some UK plugs that come with it. We'll first take a look at the Ubiquiti website and the device itself. So we'll have a look at some of the tech specs, and then we'll start playing around with it, as there's a few things you need to know before we get started. The USW WAN Switch has its own section right here, and as I mentioned, there's two different models, the RJ45 and the SFP Plus, depending on what you want. They're both exactly the same price, so $249, but the USW WAN is what I have right here. Now straight away you'll see the ports on here. We have two 10 gig Ethernet ports, and that does work from 100 meg, 1 gig, 2.5 gig, 5 gig, 10 gig. And we also have the input for the ISP, which again works from 100 meg all the way up to 10 gig. And then we have the redundant power system inputs behind as well. We have a gigabit management port, which we can plug into our network, so that can also be plugged in. And then it shows you the powerful accessories, but actually this is the accessory to the gateway. We have the Dream Machine Pro, the Dream Machine Special Edition, and the Dream Machine Pro Max. There's also a couple of things that you might want to know. If you have dual ISPs coming in, this does say a single ISP. This only does work with one, so you'd actually need two of these if you had two ISPs. And also underneath it says use additional USW WAN RJ45 switch for deployments with multiple ISPs. At the moment, with the latest UniFi network software, you can have up to 8 WAN ports. So what you can do is use up to 8 of these switches depending on your type of deployment. I will do you an illustration of how we're going to be setting the one up here, but it's going to be something similar to something like this. So we have two ISPs coming in, so we have two WAN switches, and I do have two of them. I have the second one right here, which we will be opening. I also have a second UDM Pro Max that we will also be installing. So you pretty much connect your ISP to the WAN switches, and then from the WAN switches, you connect it to your gateways. And then further down from your gateways, if you want further redundancy, you have the aggregation enterprise switch, which unfortunately I'm not going to be able to demo for you in this video, but you could also use MC lag to have the redundancy there as well. Some of you might recognize this from a previous video where I did a complete rack rebuild, and well, here I am a few weeks later doing another rebuild for this anyway. But that's the life of a content creator. But let's jump into this. So we have our WAN switch, and I did leave a little bit of space at the top, but I actually don't think I have left enough. So we're going to take these two out, which are the two OCD panels, and we're going to take out the brush plate just here. I will try and keep this as step-by-step and as simple as possible. The only thing you need to keep in mind is there are two things at play here. We're trying to set up the USW WAN switch, and the main purpose of this is to feed the ISPs into shadow mode. For shadow mode, we need two of the same gateways, so whether it's a UDM Pro, Pro Max, SE, and the other thing you need to keep in mind is they need to be on the same firmware version. So I have one right here, which I have set up from previously. I have another box here, which is another UDM Pro Max that you can see right there. I'm going to get it plugged in probably at the top, and then in between I will have the two WAN switches. The only thing I need to think about at the moment is what I'm going to do with these cables right here. So I've decided to make a small little change just here. I've decided to drop the 24 port switch and the patch panel down, and then I'm going to drop probably the brush plate down to here. And then I'm going to do a WAN switch, and then I'm going to do a UDM Pro WAN switch, UDM Pro WAN switch, and then the brush plate, and then that can send all the cables through. I actually have one more used space here, which I'm going to use a rack tray. I did show this on one of my other live streams, so you can go and check that out if you want, but that tray is basically going to go in here. And there we go, that's now all put into place. I'll take off these stickers in just a second. I'm first going to get the UDM Pro powered up and get that adopted, and then we're going to factory reset it. The reason I'm getting it set up and adopted is just to give it the software update that it needs. So this is now ready to set up, and we can take our phone. You can see as soon as we go into the UniFi app that we're going to get this set up. Now you have to realize there's a two-step process going on here. We're going to be setting up the shadow mode first, which is what we're doing right here. So we've taken a network cable from the UDM Pro Max and gone into the internet connection. We're just going to get it set up. So that's the first step. And then we're going to enable shadow mode. Once we've done that, we'll then come back to have a look at the WAN switches and we can see how that works. So new device found, we're going to get this set up. It's going to go off and connect to it. I'm just giving it any old internet connection at the moment. As I'm doing this for the first time, we don't even need to go and plug in the internet connection and get it set up. You can see on the screen straight away, it's telling me, do you want to set up shadow mode? So we can say yes, let's set it up as shadow mode, and that's going to go off now. Check the new firmware, get it all up to date, make sure the firmwares are matching, and then it's going to get set up in shadow mode. So once that's all complete, it's synchronizing at the moment. Once that's all complete, let's come back and we'll take another look. Now that we have shadow mode enabled on here, you can see the UDM Pro Max is right here. So we have the shadow mode showing right there, which has just been set up. There's not a lot you can really do within this until you go into the console itself, and then we'll go through the steps of setting up the gateway. So at the moment, let me recap what we've done so far. I've actually also added in both USW WANs as well. So I've connected into the management port at the back, and then you can see these two just down the bottom here, the Yazi WAN and the VM WAN. And you can see I haven't plugged anything into either of them yet. So we're going to go through that in a few moments. The first place we're going to go to is settings, control panel, and then console. And you can see we have the UDM Pro Max, we have the shadow gateway in sync, and there's a button in the top right hand corner. And you can do this from your mobile device as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be from a machine. You can click enable failover, and then it's going to walk you through step by step exactly what you need to do. Now, unfortunately, I don't have too many short cables. I have a couple, so I will try and keep the cables to a minimum, and we'll see how far we can get. So the first things first, it says right here, do not disconnect the WAN port from the shadow gateway. So we're not going to do that. And we're going to connect port 7 of both of these together. So I'm just going to pop these out for the time being. We're going to go with the primary UDM Pro Max on the port 7, and then the secondary UDM Pro Max in port 7. And then we scroll down and we just click verify, and then that's done. There's a green tick there, we're good to go. And then we click next, and then it's basically setting up the high availability on here. Once that's set up, it has a connectivity between the two, so it can have a communication or a heartbeat or whatever you want to call between the two devices, so they know what's going on. We have this cable right here, and we've plugged it in between the two, and we're happy we have a heartbeat between the two gateways, however that whatever sees fit. But we're going to now start moving around some of the WAN connectivity. So you can see on the screen, it says connect the Shadows Gateway WAN port directly to the ISP and mirror the WAN cabling of the primary gateway, which is literally what the WAN switch does. It mirrors the WAN port for you automatically, so you don't need to worry about it. Now, a lot of people will tell you there are switches out there that can do this for you. You don't need to worry about this, but I'll say it again, UniFi are all about making things easy and simple, and that's what this device does. So I'm going to take my first ISP that I have, and it's going to be disconnected. I'm going to go into the first WAN switch at the top, and we'll plug that in. Now, this WAN switch right here has network connectivity. What we're going to do off the back of that is we have 2 network ports off the back of this now, so we can go into one, and then we can go into the other. Now, what we're basically doing is that one that we initially set up just to get it up and running, we're going to take that one out. Okay, we no longer need that port. So that's now come out, and you'll see that we just have this single cable right here. We have the internet connectivity going into the WAN switch, and then we have one connectivity going up and one connectivity going down. Now, what I've basically done is taken my internet connection, I've gone in, I've given the failover gateway WAN connectivity, and I've given my primary gateway WAN connectivity. And you can see right there, the blue light has actually come on. So probably see that right there, there's a blue light that's just come on. And if we go back to the screen, it says not to disconnect the port 7. So again, make sure that one stays in. And then we need to plug the 2 devices into my aggregation switch. Now, previously I've already set this up, so I have one already. So I need to take one more cable up. My aggregation switch is actually at the top. So I'm going to show you in just a second how we're going to do this. So I've gone from the aggregation switch. You can see this cable here, and we'll do some cable management after. Let's get this up and running first. And I'm going into the 10 gig SFP plus LAN port, and that is port number 11. So we'll clip that in. Now if we come back to our screen recording, you can see that is now all configured, and then we can click finish. And it's really that simple to get shadow mode set up. And we have now a redundant gateway. We have the WAN switch set up. Now the final bit we're going to do is set up the second WAN switch for the second ISP. Now, if you have 2, 3, 4, 5 different ISPs, you can have one of these for each individual ISP that you have to make sure you have the redundancy that you need. Now let's give the example that you are installing a second ISP. We have this set up, and if I show you right here, we can see we have the VM switch that was set up initially, and then we have the Yaesu switch, which has nothing plugged into it at the moment. That's the one down here. Now we do exactly the same thing, but there'll be one less step for us to do. So we're going to take the internet connection, which is going into my main UDM Pro Max, and that is the primary internet connection, and we'll go into the internet connection on here. That's then gone in, and again, same process. We run 2 cables, one to UDM Pro primary, one to UDM Pro Max secondary. So we'll go from port 2, and I'm doing this the other way around, and we'll go into the SFP plus port at the top here. Now it is only an RJ45, so we're going to need one of these adapters. So SFP plus to RJ45, that can go into here like so, and then we'll connect that one up. And then we just need a small patch cable, and we need one more small patch cable to go from here into port 1. I do need the smaller patch cable. This is the 30 centimeter one. I think I need the 15 centimeter one. Pull some of these cables back to make it a little bit more tidy. Now there is a lot going on here, as you've just imagined. We've changed all the cables around, and look, we have 2 connectivities just set up right here, and we have 2 lights set up here because we can see the connection is active between both of them. Now while I set that up, you did probably see that that network connectivity went offline, but it came back very quickly. And if we look at the WAN switch, we can see this is now set up also as well. Now to test this and make sure it all works, 1, from a redundancy perspective, and 2, let's test the network connectivity. So I'm going to open up a couple of terminal windows. Let's make them a little bit bigger. We'll do ping 8.8.8.8. We'll open up a new window. There's a few different things I want to ping. So ping 10, and then we're going to do ping 10, 10, 10, 2. Now what this is basically going to do, we're going to ping out to the internet, we're going to ping the gateway, and then we're going to ping a device on the network. So the 10.10.10.2 is actually my UNAS Pro, which is sat down here. So we're going to go across and see if that works. That one off. I do have some more of these, so I will finish it all off nicely and make sure it looks properly. So we have the connection all set up and we're ready to go. So the first test we're going to do, we're going to pull the plug on a gateway and we'll see what happens there. The second test we're going to do, we'll pull the plug on the primary ISP and see what happens there. And then the final test is, so we can see we're happily pinging everything across the network. So the first one we'll do is we'll lose a gateway. Probably would have been easier just to pull an Ethernet cable, but yeah, we'll do a real life simulation, and it's gone offline. And you can see we've lost some connectivity to the internet, we've lost some connectivity to the gateway, but inside the network I'm obviously still able to ping. So we're going to wait to see if this takes over, and we'll see how many pings we lose. And you can see we lost a few pings also internally, and that's now come back. And you can see it's failover activating, so it's definitely taking over failover. Now this is the first time I am testing the failover. I will test it again to see if it's actually quicker from the first failover, but yeah, that's just something we're running right now. So you can probably see on here, I'll show you, it says failover activating right there. So we're waiting for that. There you go, it's restoring UniFi network. So the network is online. And you can see we have a response now from 8.8.8.8 and 10.1.1.1, and we have 10.10.10.2. So everything is responding, everything's happy, everybody's back to normal in terms of network connectivity. So that was probably about 30 seconds maybe that was down between the two. Now obviously losing a gateway is quite drastic. For something like that to happen, it doesn't happen very often. You're more likely to lose an internet connection. So let's plug the UDM Pro Max back in and let's see what happens here. So just before we plug the UDM Pro Max back in here, you can see this is restoring the network at the moment, and then it's going to go through each of the applications and get it all restored. So if we take a look at UniFi Network now, we can't see the shadow mode gateway, but if we have a look just here, we can see it says failover activated, and we now have this running as the primary and this one is offline. So we're going to plug this back in now and let's take a look at what happens. Full disclosure, that test didn't really go to plan, and I'll tell you why. So what happened originally is I got it all updated with all the firmware, but I didn't realize I was running a very early version of the software. So one thing to keep in mind is don't do your testing when you have a very early version of the software. So I've gone back now and I've restored everything. I've got it back up and running. I've switched them around. So this is now my primary and this is my secondary. And now you can see this just here. It's shadow mode ready to take over. And if we go back to the machine, take a look, we can see the shadow mode is ready to take over. So here we go, take 2 of the settings. I'm going to pull the plug on the UDM Pro Max and we'll pull the plug of this top one right here. And there we go. And I'm going to run, my pings are running again in the background. So we'll have a quick look at what's going on there. And I have a few different pings running. So in the top left, we have our internet connection. In the top right, we have the gateway. The bottom left, I have another device on the network. And on the bottom right, I'm actually running a ping against something that's running into the UDM Pro Max just to see what happens. So it looks like we've dropped a few pings and we can see it says failover activating right here. So it's given it a bit of time and that's now activating. So we can see our internet ping is still running. Our connection is still going to the gateway. And we can see now that it's now restoring the network from when it was last backed up, which was this morning, which was at 9 AM. And if we head back to the pings and have a look there, we can see we can't ping the thing in the bottom right hand corner, which is the thing plugged into the UDM Pro Max because it's not reachable anymore. So that was kind of expected. So do keep in mind, if you do have anything plugged in directly, you're going to have to move the cable. To receive your recordings from UniFi Protect, you're going to have to move your drives from the UDM Pro Max primary to the secondary, and that will retrieve all your recordings within UniFi Protect. One other thing to mention is it is recommended not to populate any drives in the failover for this exact reason. So we can take the drives out of here, pop them into here, and normal service is restored. And as you can see, we've not lost any pings since those initial few pings that we lost. I think we lost 1. So we can see right here, we lost about 8 pings. And since then, we've not lost any more at all. So that is now completed, and on here it says failover activated. So again, I'll show you that. It says failover activated. If we click dismiss, you have the normal things on the LCM display. And if we look into UniFi Network, we can see failover activated. This is just a temporary solution while you get your primary one back online. And it says changes that you made during the failover are overwritten when the primary gateway connects because it doesn't know about them. If we go to the pings, everything is working apart from the one device that's plugged into here. So we can see that. So what I'm going to do now is get this powered back on and see if it takes over again. Also, just to add, it took about 5 to 7 minutes to restore all the applications to make sure everything's back up and running. Network goes up first, it goes the quickest, and then the rest of the applications follow. Right, there we go. We've popped some power in and that's now starting. Let's see what happens to our pings. So it's the normal amount of time on here. It says estimated time 5 minutes. I can hear the discs whirring now. They're going back up. So there we go. We're dropping a few pings right here. So hopefully this means the gateway's taken back over. So this has actually changed right here. It says shadow mode ready to take over. We've lost a number of pings so far. Internally, everything is okay. It's okay in terms of accessing the NAS, but we've lost pings to the gateway. We've lost pings to... There we go, we've lost all the pings to everything now. So hopefully this is now taking back over. And in terms of connection to the NAS, we've lost 4 pings. We still don't have an internet connection yet, and we still don't have gateway access yet. And in terms of if we go to UniFi Network, it's telling me it's still connecting, and I don't have Wi-Fi network coverage just yet. So it's bringing everything back on. So we'll give it another couple of minutes, and hopefully that will all come back. So there we go, we're back online now. And the reason that dropped so many pings was because of the Wi-Fi connectivity. The Wi-Fi access on this laptop itself was dropped out. So once I reconnected again, everything went back to normal. So this seems to be back up and running. It's ready to take over. This says ready to take over again. And if we go into the UniFi console, we can see right here now the 2 site gateways and the second one is ready to take over. So that is how easy and simple shadow mode is to set up. Now with the previous test, it showed you that the pings came back, but I wasn't very particularly happy that the fact that the Wi-Fi disconnected and it didn't give me the most accurate reading. So what I've done with my machine now is I've plugged in a cable in, I've gone to one of my switches at the top, and we're going to go and plug this back in and we'll see what happens. So just like before, we have 4 pings running. We have 1 to the internet, 1 to the gateway, 1 to the NAS down here, and 1 to the machine that was plugged into the previous UDM Pro SE that's gone offline. So I have my power lead right here. It has failover activated here because the failover has happened. I haven't moved any drives across because it's not going to stay like this. So we're going to plug this one back in. Let's see what happens. While that powers up, I can show you straight in the console that the failover is activated as well. And that said estimated 5 minutes to start up. So let's see what's happening to the pings at the moment. So we can see in terms of the ping, we lost one ping just there. We lost a couple of pings to 10.10.10.2, and we've lost a few more pings. So it looks like now it's finally kicking into failing back, as this is. It says shadow mode ready to take over right there. That's what's showing there. Let's see how many pings this takes for us to get back online again. And there we go. That after about 20 odd seconds, we're back online. So 10.10.10.2, we're getting 8.8.8.8, and then we've got 10.1.1.1, and then we've got 10.10.40.246. So that is the machine that's actually plugged into here. So everything is back online. It's failed back. If we go back into the UniFi console quickly, where it says failover activated at the moment, if I refresh the page, we can see that the UDM Pro Max, we can see that the primary UDM Pro Max has taken back over, and the shadow mode is now ready to fail over again. So that probably took about 20 seconds or so to fail back, but we are now back up and running. So that was the first part. Now obviously the second part, the main point of this video, are these WAN switches. So how does that work? Well, we're going to pull the plug of one of them and see if it takes over. So I know this is my primary and this is my primary connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the plug of this one right here, and you can see this one goes up here to the primary gateway, and it's my primary connection. Again, we'll have a look at all the pings to see what's happening. I don't expect anything to be affected internally. It's more going to be the 8.8.8.8. So we've pulled the connection just there. We've lost 1, 2, and the second one takes over. So we lost 3 pings in total, and that was that WAN connection going down. So just to simulate a WAN failover right there. And then if I plug it back in, you can see we're getting a slightly higher ping rate, which is like 18 to 20 seconds, maybe a little bit more. And then we plug the second connection back in. You can see the ping drop straight away. So we didn't drop any pings when the primary connection comes back online. But yeah, you can see right there, obviously the milliseconds have dropped to single digits. And just obviously for full completeness, if I take out the secondary connection, that's going all the way up here. I don't expect to see any drops. But if we take out the secondary connection, there you go. There's no difference between it. It just keeps going. I wasn't expecting anything to change this there, but we can plug that back in and that's ready to go. So that pretty much wraps up this video in terms of how this works and how it gets set up. This can be a little bit confusing because there's a lot of moving parts, but you just got to remember that there's 2 steps to this process. There's one, setting up the WAN switch, and the reason you're buying the WAN switch is so you can set up the failover. If you have a single gateway and a single ISP, or even a dual ISP, there's no point doing something like this. You just plug it straight into the single one. The whole point you're buying the WAN switch is for the shadow mode failover. But if I missed anything, or you want to see anything more, or know anything more, let me know down in the comments below, and if I need to put something else together, we can do that as a video. For now, this is Inside Wire, and I'll see you in the next one.